one in South Carolina. South Carolina Representative Mark Sanford, who's been reelected before despite a scandalous affair, lost in the primaries yesterday to Katie Arrington, a vocal supporter of the guy in the White House. Now he's bragging that his tweets backing Arrington led to her victory. So a couple of questions. Did he tweet like 2 weeks before her victory, or a month before her victory, or
3 hours before?
Yeah.
Okay.
3 hours before the polls closed. So unless everybody was sort of on their Twitter account, I don't know that he had that, the tweet had that much power. But it is interesting that the Republican senators or congressmen that have come out forcefully against Trump, they seem to be losing.
Being forced into
again.
retirement.
Yeah.
Or forcing themselves
Or forcing themselves in.
Yeah.
And this is a question I have for Meghan. When I think of the election, I always thought that there were less actual pro-Trump supporters and more a Republican Party that wanted their agenda voted in and voted for him anyway. These primaries are more revealing because these are all Republicans choosing their candidate.
Yeah.
And this divide surprised me because Sanford has never lost, had some moderate...
His first loss in 9 campaigns in 24 years. Not to interrupt you.
No, but his criticisms of Trump weren't even that, fiery. They were on policy and things he disagreed on, and it still took him down.
So South Carolina politics in America is always provocative and interesting, and it's kind of a good pulse what's going on in the South for a lot of things going on within conservatism. Mark Sanford was a mainstay in South Carolina. He was governor, he was a congressman. He managed to survive a sex scandal, climbing the Appalachian Mountain or whatever he said when he was actually with his mistress, and get reelected to Congress. He's a member of the Freedom Caucus, which means he's a more libertarian bent section of the Republican Party, which is a really interesting segment of the Republican Party because they're very isolationist, they're very anti-spending, very fiscally conservative. I don't agree with them on foreign policy, but it's a really important part of our party to have that kind of disagreement. And to see someone like Mark Sanford, who is literally an icon to my husband and someone that has really been at the forefront of so many issues within the Republican Party for so long, get taken out for just mild criticism of President Trump, by the way. Can I just finish? Because, again, I think it's important to note. His criticism was just that Trump was flaming the flames of intolerance and that he came out against the tariffs. This is not exactly coming out in the vein of, like, a Jeff Flake, and even that isn't enough for primary voters.
But the point seems to be that in all of these primaries and probably in the midterms, if you dare to speak against the king, Donald Trump, then he will screw with you and he will tweet something against you. And these guys are either in the cult and drank the Kool-Aid, I don't know, or they're afraid they have to go back to their other jobs as exterminators and postal carriers. And I have one guy who's an explosives expert, another one who's a emergency dispatcher. They do not want to go back.
Expert. That's an important job.
They do not want to go back to those jobs.
They want to remain in power.
They want to remain in power in their state. So they will kiss his ring and whatever else he wants you to kiss.
But I have a question about this, because do we know that that's actually factual, that Mark Sanford lost because of that tweet? Or is this some tweet? Well, but that's what I'm saying. Is this propaganda? Because one of the things that the guy in the White House tends to do is he says, look, I did this. And whether he did it or not, people say, well, yes, look at what he did. And he didn't do it. So I'm not buying that this happened because of
It's not because of
Almost said it.
Almost said it.
Almost said it. I'm not buying that. I'm not buying it.
But to Joy's point, Corker said, Bob Corker, the Republican senator from Tennessee, he's retiring at the end of his term, but he argued that Republicans were blocking his trade proposal because they were afraid of Trump and what he might do to the party if they upset him in an election year. And he said this, which I was like, wow, gosh, we might poke the bear, is the language I've been hearing in the hallways. And so while he's not running for re-election, I think what he said is obviously very truthful.
But the good news for the Democrats is that almost everyone who's on the Republican ticket in the midterms is a Trumpy. And so that's who you're voting against. You're voting against Trump.
You're not wrong. It's what's happening in the Virginia election as well. The candidate who's very radical and is for the Confederate flag and other things just lost to a more conservative candidate and will ultimately probably end up losing to Tim Kaine. It is a problem with primaries coming up, but it has been a problem for a long time. So I don't. I'm not 100% sold on this yet because we're talking about specific states and specific elections. I do think there are always outlier candidates. When you have someone like Ben Sasse, who's still elected to the Senate, who's intensely anti-Trump and was a never-Trumper, who's becoming incredibly popular, especially among young Republicans, and he's not going anywhere.
Well,
and
Trump
he's still
can't
in
touch
office.
him, I guess.
He's still in office.
But most of them he can.
If Whoopi's correct, though, and the tweet isn't the game changer, were people clear that Trump was for or against him before?
Yes. Because he came out against President Trump, and he met with him in 2016 and said that he wasn't, I believe, overly impressed with him was the quote that he used. But it's just interesting because he has been such a powerhouse in South Carolina for so long. But I will say that Henry McMaster, who's the current governor who's running, is also having a tough primary. He came out for Trump very early on in the election and endorsed him right before the general South Carolina primary, and he's a Trumper. So the narrative is tricky.
So I'm, we know that this one knows how to do the media.
Yep.
And so it's one word and confident. Yeah, I did that. And it's like, I'm not sure.
The upside is that it's the year of the woman when it comes to these primaries. I've just been fascinated. On Tuesday, 3 women won Democratic primaries. Women will represent Democrats, women will represent Democrats in all 4 of Virginia's competitive House races in November.
But when you're talking about identity politics, the woman who just beat Mark Sanford is a woman. So, like, again, she's a Trumper. So, again,
but
if
she's
it's
a woman.
just about
so
gender.
It's the year of the woman.
So she won because it's just about gender?
I'm happy about that. And also, a record number of Democratic women have filed to run for Congress since Trump stepped into the White House. To date, 476 women have filed to run for the House in 2018.
I am woman, hear me.
Right? Did you just hear what I just said?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, this is ridiculous. I'm sorry, did you just hear what I just said? That the woman who beat Mark Sanford, that's a major Trumper, is a woman. So again, is this just about electing all women, even if they're hyper-Trump supporters?
No, I think
that's
it's just saying there's more representation,
There's
which
more
there hasn't been as much.
especially in the Democratic Party.
But I think the idea that we're just voting because she's a woman.
Did you just say hurry up?
Oh. No, I didn't say that to you.
She likes to tell me.
Oh, I see.
She's like, hurry up, Nate.
Yeah, we'll be back. There's news breaking right now that attorney Michael Cohen is likely to cooperate with federal prosecutors who raided his office and seized documents. No more details have been released, and it's still speculative, but this is what is being speculated. But what do you think the mood is in the White House right now?
Stay away from those avocados.
Well, we'll know soon enough because he'll tweet, right?
A surprise, because Cohen once said he'd jump out of a building or take a bullet for Trump. So I think this is a big switch of what we've heard.
Let me
He didn't
tell
say
you
about sitting in prison for the years, though. That's a third choice.
Well,
he has a family.
Yeah. I have experienced people flipping in crime families, drug conspiracies, people that you would never think would flip when they have children at home, when they have a life, and when they're facing significant prison time. And I think he was betting on that a lot of the documents that were retrieved during the raid were going to be attorney-client privilege, but the judge found that out of 300,000, it would only be 162 would be covered by the privilege.
Wait, 162 period or 162,000?
162 documents.
Oh, okay.
So when you look at that and that's staring you in the face, it's just a prime reason to flip and
but
testify.
As I said, we don't have any more details. We don't know if that's the case, but a lot of people are speculating, and so we thought we'd let you know this is happening.
I think also we should watch Trump right now because when he's cornered, he gets vicious. So I am concerned about how he's going to respond, like a trapped rat,
What is interesting is,
I'm not calling him a rat. I'm just saying it's a trapped animal. He responds like that.
Yeah.
It scares me.
But Trump he's been giving out these pardons, his pardon power. He's sort of drunk with the pardon power. I can't imagine that Michael Cohen isn't thinking, if I get indicted, why cooperate? Because the pardon is available to me. So that's still the little piece of it.
The other's court in New York State.
State
so
court.
he can't pardon him there.
Well, here's
so
the
he's
thing.
screwed.
It's all speculation.
Yeah.
Michael Cohen, don't bet on anything. If you're thinking about flipping, he may or may not pardon you. You don't know. You know him. You don't know about it. You don't know. Don't put those eggs in that basket. Do whatever you're going to do. But those eggs,
He's very
eggs,
mercurial.
are there. Oh, son, Go ahead.
Well, Cohen has denied any wrongdoing and has not been charged with the crime. And so, you know,
All right.
you've said that, but
I have said
to
it.
reiterate
and I guess I should say it in English next time. We'll be right back.